This is Think Out Loud on OPB. I'm Dave Miller. Miles Davis would be turning 100 next week. Over the course of his career, the trumpeter and bandleader was a creative chameleon. He went from big band to bebop to cool jazz to fusion and was often at the forefront of these stylistic revolutions. Our sister station KMHD is going to be celebrating Miles Davis later this month with a special concert at Portland's Aladdin Theater. It'll be a live track-by-track recreation of Davis's 1957 album, Birth of the Cool. The Portland trumpeter Noah Simpson will lead the band. He joins us now, trumpet in hand. It's great to have you back on Think Out Loud.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Do you remember when you first heard Miles Davis?
Yeah, I was 8 years old, and I got a CD, old-fashioned, and it was Kinda Blue.
A classic.
A classic. And I remember I fell asleep to it, and I woke up the next day and didn't stop playing it.
You were already a trumpeter?
No. I had just started playing that. Well, I had literally just started, and my uncle got it for me. He was like, if you're going to play trumpet, you got to know about Miles Davis.
Know the people whose shoulders you're going to be trying to stand on. So, I mean, what do you remember hearing just as a young kid?
I had never heard a trumpet sound like that. It sounded like a human voice. It sounded like he was talking directly to me. It also sounded like he wasn't trying to impress anyone. He didn't care who he was. He was just himself.
That is maybe the perfect definition of cool in general. Like we'll talk about cool jazz, but the coolness of not trying to impress somebody is the deepest coolness, I think.
Absolutely.
Did you end up having a favorite Miles Davis album or era? As I mentioned just briefly in my intro, I mean, he was a part of most of the major jazz transitions of the middle to late 20th century. He had a kind of artistic transformation that few artists of any kind have. Was there an era that spoke to you the most?
Yeah, there was this 4-record streak. Famously, Miles had to get out of a recording contract, and he had to fulfill 4 albums, so he recorded 4 albums over the course of like 2.5 days. And when I heard those, I was like, oh, you could tell he's doing this in a hurry. And he was a little mad kind of in the way that he played. Still that patient self, but a little bit of like fire, anger, and aggression. There are also some like vocal outtakes on it where you can hear him kind of scold the band or whoever's in the booth.
But in a way that you responded to.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's like, I really like this.
We're talking now partly because of the concerts coming up next Sunday. So not this Sunday, but the Sunday after that, which is this recreation of Birth of the Cool. Mm-hmm. What was Birth of the Cool, this album?
Yeah, this album kind of represents this really interesting time in jazz history. So at the time, the music of jazz is a bebop. You could think of Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, these smaller ensembles kind of playing this fast music at very complicated melodies, very virtuosic solos. This album is not that. This album is essentially this slower, more contemplative. There is some bot stuff in it, but everyone is now playing like Miles. Everyone is not playing like they have something to prove, but they're playing in this cool kind of swaggered way.
Do you have a sense for what it would have sounded like to the audience? I mean, it came out almost 70 years ago, this album. It's now in the pantheon, but at the time, what would this have meant to audiences?
You know, audiences were probably very intrigued by it. I don't know if they necessarily were like, oh my God, this is like the next big thing, because they didn't really fully understand it yet. Famously, there is a Count Basie quote about it. He came and saw them and said, like, it sounds like 9 people singing at the same time. And, you know, I think that was maybe kind of cool, and they weren't ready for what that kind of sounded like that.
Was that meant as a positive statement?
I guess it could have been a little debatable. Yeah. I'm guessing it probably was as a positive statement, but it was just so different. Maybe people didn't know how to react to it yet.
Huh. How do you define cool jazz? Because, I mean, this is seen as one of the seminal albums that ushered in a new era. What's cool jazz?
Cool jazz is that Miles Davis mentality, in a sense. You're not trying to impress anyone. It is very soft. It is very slow. It's very reflective. There are some harmonic qualities to it, you know what I mean? A bit more in the minor keys, a little bit more minor planing, but definitely slower tempos and mixed in a way that is a little bit more kind of creates a vibe.
Let's listen to one of the original tracks from Birth of the Cool before we hear you and the bass player you came with playing a different track from the same album. We'll hear part of Venus de Milo. I imagine that you can't count the number of times you've heard this track, but what stands out to you just this time on hearing it today?
The melody. The melody it just stands out so prominently. There is a little bit of nuance to it, and yet it's so softly spoken. It's just a level of genius that it's hard to understand.
How'd the concert on Sunday the 24th come to be?
I got hit up by KMHD. They said, it's the 100th year anniversary of Miles. This would have been his 100th birthday. And they wanted to celebrate him. And they were like, what's something that stands out as like something that people would want to engage with? And this kind of came to this. It was between a few, but I think this was the most exciting one.
How do you go about preparing for a concert like this where, I don't know, I imagine that some number of people in the audience are going to know this album note by note?
100%.
You're putting on a kind of costume and people know the threads of the costume.
You can decide if you want to put on that costume.
Okay, so how are you approaching it?
I would ask myself how Miles would want me to do this. If I were to ask Miles Davis, how would you want me to do this concert? Respect the melodies, respect the forms, but at the end of the day, you play music like you play music. So we can kind of embrace that mentality of, a little bit more of the chiller thing, but I'm going to play the trumpet like I play the trumpet.
Can you play us a stripped down version of one of the tracks from Birth of the Cool?
Yeah, this one's called Boplicity.
So, and I should say, as you get ready, it's Noah Simpson on trumpet and Garrett Baxter, a Portland bass player, here on upright bass. That is the Portland trumpeter Noah Simpson on trumpet and Garrett Baxter on bass. We heard Boplicity, which is one of the tracks from Birth of the Cool. This is a kind of preview of the Miles Davis tribute concert that's going to happen at Portland's Aladdin Theater on May 24th. A track-by-track recreation of the Miles Davis album Birth of the Cool. I mentioned briefly in my intro the kind of musical progression that Miles Davis went through from the 40s to the 80s. But for folks who are less familiar with jazz's history, can you just give us a sense for how much he changed, and how much he changed music, and how much the music he played changed over the course of, half a century?
Yeah, I mean, he came up in this early stage of the bebop movement, had a career doing that. Then we get to this stage where he's essentially creating cool jazz, which turns into modal jazz. No one had done that before. And then post that, he creates essentially what is fusion and electric jazz by the way that he structures his band. The music fundamentally changed because of the way that he structured his ensembles and the way that he played the music.
What lessons can you learn from him? I imagine there are technical trumpet lessons
100%.
About tone and playing your instrument. But what about just as an artist? What lessons have you taken from him? I'm wondering specifically about an openness to change.
Not only an openness to change, but a necessity to change. There were many times in Miles' career where he essentially had one of the best bands in the world, and he fired every single one of them to start a new band. Because he essentially decided, I've made that music, I've done it, it's time to do something else.
So he was bored?
I don't know.
Or he desired something new?
He desired something new. I think he changed from day to day to day. He had, when I spoke of that period earlier where he finished his record contract, he was like, okay, it's time for an entire new band. And he essentially fired his ensemble of people his age and hired a bunch of 16 and 17-year-olds, which, went on to be Ron Carter and Herbie Hancock and Wayne Shorter.
More legends. We have just a few minutes left. Can we hear one of your songs? Can we hear Moonwater, a short version of Moonwater?
Yeah, let's get it.
I love that ending. That's Moonwater by Noah Simpson on trumpet and Garrett Baxter on bass. Noah, the first time we talked, it was a conversation via Zoom. I was in my kid's old bedroom. Everybody was just, I don't know, in their homes. And we were talking about the pandemic and what it's like to be a musician in the pandemic. Are things back? I mean, when you're performing out in public, are audiences back, or is there a lasting change?
There is a lasting change. And we will never have the normal that we thought we had. We are truly in the whatever's going to be our new normal.
What does that mean from a performer's perspective?
That means being considerate of your audience and considerate of your bandmates, knowing where they're coming from, their trauma, whatever they're bringing in, and providing art that can maybe give them some reprieve of whatever they have going on.
Okay, so that's a kind of general societal post-pandemic reality. What about just the jazz scene itself? How would you say the Portland jazz scene is these days? You have 1 minute to answer that question.
I think in some ways it's better than it's ever been, and in other ways we have a lot of work to do.
What's the best part about it right now?
The best part about it are the musicians and the audience.
Okay, and what still needs some work?
We need to get a bigger audience, and we need to have artists create music that heals every single Portlander.
Is that what you think about as a musician, that you're trying to heal your audience?
100%. Music is healing. I don't own this music. The music owns me. I'm simply a servant here to serve my community.
Noah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
That's Noah Simpson. He is a Portland trumpeter. We heard the bass playing from Garrett Baxter on upright bass. It was a preview of the Miles Davis tribute concert that's going to be at Portland's Aladdin Theater on May 24th, a recreation of the Miles Davis album Birth of the Cool. Miles Davis would be turning 100 years old next week. We end the show today with a remembrance of the Portland documentary filmmaker Brian Lindstrom. He died on Friday at the age of 65. Lindstrom had been diagnosed with the rare brain disease progressive supranuclear palsy just last month. He was married to the best-selling author Cheryl Strayed. She wrote this on Instagram. He was a stellar husband. He was the most magnificent dad. He was a man whose every word and deed was driven by kindness, compassion, and generosity. He saw the goodness in everyone. He believed that we are all sacred and redeemable. Lindstrom was on Think Out Loud 3 times over the years to talk about his work. We want to listen back to a short excerpt from a conversation we had in 2015. He joined us to talk about his documentary, Mothering Inside. It's a film about a program that aims to keep families intact after mothers are sent to prison. I asked him why he wanted to focus on these women.
Well, I really felt like this would kind of be the third in a trilogy of films that for me began with Finding Normal and then continued with Alien Boy, and that is really trying to shine a light on people that we as society usually put an X through and try to reveal their humanity and strength. And I feel so privileged to have been led into the program and to really see these women not only nurture and develop bonds with their children, but really work on themselves and change their kind of life story, in a sense, to change the way they thought of themselves and to put their experiences in a different context, one based on strength.
Did you go in with preconceived notions about the women you were going to encounter or the stories you'd hear?
No, I just really tried to go in with an open mind and really just kind of be a fly on the wall and follow what was in front of me.
What did you find?
I found that wonderful spiritual humility that comes about when someone takes a hard look at their life, admits that it's not working, and will do anything to change it.
That was the Portland filmmaker Brian Lindstrom speaking in 2015 about his film Mothering Inside. Lindstrom's filmography also includes Finding Normal and Alien Boy, The Life and Death of James Chassie. Lindstrom died on Friday at the age of 65. Here's something we're working on for a future show. It's now been 3 months since the Supreme Court struck down the Trump administration's most sweeping tariffs. And it's been 1 month since the administration launched a portal where businesses can ask for tariff refunds. Did you do that? Are you a business owner who applied for your money back? We'd love to hear your story. You can leave us a voicemail right now at 503-293-1983. If you don't want to miss any of our shows, you can listen on wherever you get your podcasts, including at iTunes. Our nightly rebroadcast is at 8 p.m. Thanks very much for tuning in to Think Out Loud on OPB and KLCC. I'm Dave Miller. Have a great day.
Think Out Loud is supported by Steve and Jan Oliva, the Rose E. Tucker Charitable Trust, Michael, Kristen, Andrew Kern, and Anna Sanford, and the Jackson Foundation.